Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Welcome to another informative, exciting, and in this case, quite educational session of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Excited to have Bruce Jones with us today. Bruce, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It's always a great opportunity, not just for me, but for all of our peers and listeners to get an opportunity to gain a little bit of insight into a corner of the world that they may not be familiar with. And today, most of them are not going to be familiar with it. So I am thrilled to hear a bit more about kind of how you got in, how you've gotten along, and how you've gotten to where you're at and what you do. And as always, it's the generosity of guests like you, Bruce, that allow people to continue to learn about this podcast, share this podcast. Of course, they subscribe and they continue to take it out to hundreds and hundreds more every single week. So thanks, everybody, for your generosity. And with that, Bruce, so we want to know, were you born this way or how did you get into the valuation and appraisal profession?
I was actually a real estate appraiser, a real estate agent.
Really, out of the womb, you just like came right out. You just had your realtor hat on.
Right out of college, I went into I was a finance major, and I really wanted to be a financial planner.
Okay.
But it's funny, I graduated college, and I went on a few interviews, and next thing you know, they're kind of setting me up and to watch presentations and so forth, and it was all selling life insurance.
Oh, really?
And it was all whole life policies.
Whole life policy. That's the way it was back then.
And I was like, I don't agree with those.
Oh my
I would
goodness.
never sell those. So it was funny. A friend of mine, I had gotten in the real estate business. I said, look, until you find a place, why don't you join me? Why don't you come in and start
Really?
working in real estate? And
Wow.
Actually, one of the college courses that I took, a finance course, was in real estate. So I had, a little bit of, introduction into it. So I was like, oh, sure. All right. So, well,
Wow.
I was a real estate agent for 16 years.
You were a real
before I
estate
became an
agent for
appraiser.
16 years. And so you went to college and you studied finance.
Yep.
You have an idea where you're going. You end up getting into real estate brokerage for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
And you did so well, you retired. Congratulations.
Well, it was funny because at one point, and it was funny because I read your I saw something where one of the reason what I guess got you into the business
Mhm.
was that you had an investment property and the real estate appraiser did a terrible job, and
Yeah.
you thought to yourself, you know what, I can do. And that was
That was it. I mean, you nailed it, Bruce. That's how I got to this profession. I mean, I was already doing tons of analysis and investing, and then I was amazed at how incompetent one particular person was. Not everyone, of course.
Not right.
But that one was bad.
I had a similar experience. I had, purchased a few properties also at that point. And one was a little multifamily. It was actually two houses on one lot.
Oh, okay. Nice.
But one was a 2,100 square foot house. The other was a 1,600 square foot house.
Oh, all right.
So it was a duplex per se, but it was a little bit more than just a traditional duplex.
Absolutely.
Anyway, your real estate appraiser comes out and he says, I just want to give you a fair heads up though. He says, the only comp I can find is this one, a couple miles away, but it was a small duplex, like probably 1,800 square foot total.
Total.
Two small apartments getting like $650 a month and $700 a month or something like that. And I was getting $2,000 for one place and $1,600 for the other place.
Wow.
Like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
So I said, no. I said, yeah, don't bother.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's there has to be a better,
So how did that situation, you being a real estate broker, knowing the market, and then someone comes out, and thankfully they did communicate with you, and you gained an understanding that, well, maybe you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. Oh yeah, but there would be nothing worse than to spend money on an appraisal and on an application fee and all that stuff to have it all go away.
Wow.
For nonsense reasons. And unfortunately, there are some appraisers out there. Actually, a lot of times you get the trainees that come out and they're running around,
yes,
barely supervised, and that's a problem also.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And look, I mean, everybody's got to learn somehow. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is, can there be some structure for supporting that
Right.
and helping each other along? And sometimes there's just specialties or nuances that the typical professional isn't going to get.
Right.
And it's no slap to the industry. It's when it's not something that's, so complex or so unique. It's like,
Right.
hey, this is kind of like, as they say in golf, middle of the fairway kind of stuff. You're like,
Right.
this one shouldn't be a miss. So did you end up having to buy it for cash, or what happened?
No, I owned it already. It was actually for
Oh,
a
okay.
refinance. It was
Okay.
a cash out refinance so that I could buy another property.
Oh, fantastic. You're going to do your
I
laddering
had it
step.
under
I love it.
contract.
Okay.
And yeah, this kind of threw me for a loop. I was like,
Yeah.
what? So I finally got it worked out. I got a different appraiser out there, but that really kind of you got the wheels turning. Like, you know what?
Wow.
I should look into that. And I was very fortunate because I wanted to get into appraisal, but obviously you have to work for someone for
Yeah.
3 years. You've got to get all those hours. And I was like, I mean, I've got a pretty good career. I don't want to do that. I mean, talk about a few steps back. That would be, that's just not really in the cards. But I just kind of kept looking around, just trying to, and finally I spoke with with an MAI,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up starting a brokerage,
Oh, interesting.
and I started working as an appraiser,
Yes.
but I was a broker of record.
Yes.
We partnered with a brokerage firm, and I joined his appraisal company.
Yes.
So we had a joint company, and that allowed me to keep brokerage, but to also satisfy my hours to get into
Yeah.
the real estate appraisal business.
Oh, that's fascinating. So were you already handling commercial and industrial properties, or
Oh
were
yeah,
you more
yep,
residentially focused, or
yep.
as a broker, where were you in your asset work?
I'm sorry. What's the question?
So before you joined the MAI, what type of assets were you focused on as a broker?
Oh, I spent the first 6 years of my career as actually as a residential agent,
Oh, really? Okay.
and then the last 10 years as a commercial agent.
Oh, wow.
I was the broker of record for a much larger company. That company actually subsequently got acquired by
I see.
a publicly traded company. So it was a big company, but I was their New Jersey broker of record. I
Okay.
had 18 agents that I supervised,
Wow.
and I handle all the commercial stuff.
Got it.
And actually, I was doing a lot of back then auctions were pretty big.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Interesting.
I would be named as the showing broker,
Hmm.
basically talking to prospective investors,
Sure.
helping to analyze the properties, pricing them, and doing
Yes.
all that stuff.
That's amazing. What a great experience to cover broad asset types as opposed to just being one. So you obviously in New Jersey start out in residential, and then were you more of a generalist on the commercial side, or did you pick one of the major food groups?
No, yeah, I was a generalist.
Okay.
Absolutely a generalist. But yeah, but I was I get a list of like 35, 40 properties before an auction, and they'd ask me to basically value everything.
Yes.
And at the time, I didn't really have, as a broker, I knew IRV and I knew the basic functions, but I didn't have, all that much like any training, any
Well, sure. So they were
listed
asking you to do
appraisal
some type of
training.
like broker price opinion, give,
Right,
a BMA
exactly.
as they might refer to it. So they just get some kind of starting point moving to auction is what you're saying.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. So I had an interest in that really kind of stoked my interest in formal training,
Yes.
and then also I guess it was 1997. I took a couple of they were graduate level courses, and one was it was a real estate valuation course
Okay.
taught by he was an attorney who was also an MAI,
Oh, wow.
and he taught this course, and he got up at the front of the class, held up, back then it was the ninth edition,
Yes.
the appraisal of real estate text, and said, "This is the Bible."
Okay.
And it was funny. That really appealed to me. It was like, for whatever
Wow.
reason, coming from the brokerage community, I was like, really? So it's not about whoever speaks or expresses their opinion with the most force, or you know what I mean, or argues the most for their opinion or whatever. Oh no, there's actually a rule book, and I thought that's kind of cool.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So it took me a long time. I didn't actually get into the real estate, started into the appraisal field until 2004. So it was several years later, but the seed had been planted.
Wow, love that. What a great way to go. So the seed had been planted, and did that have you expand your investing beyond residential properties into commercial properties?
No, no, I was always, and most of the properties I invested in were small multifamilies.
That's not a bad way to go. It's as I heard early on, it's a wonderful get rich slow plan.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Now, most of them I sold, but I still have one. I still have a five family, yeah, not that far away. And funny thing is, I actually like going over there because otherwise I'm working on my computer, noodling around on different things. But I enjoy going over there and working on projects, putting in a tile floor I mean, and my wife thinks I'm crazy, but I just enjoy doing it.
That happens, and there's something to be said for that. That tangible experience of going and seeing the property, touching the property, making
Yeah,
some improvements.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that is absolutely great. So you end up meeting this MAI. You get chatting with him. You end up starting up a brokerage. You're getting real estate appraisal experience along the way.
Yeah.
Were you clear at that time that you were going to be a broker who also appraised, or were you clear that this was your opportunity to be a jockey on a different horse going forward?
I made a commitment to go full force.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
and so, I mean, I started immediately, with the MAI courses. I was very fortunate because at the time, Rutgers University, they were having the courses on the weekends.
Oh,
So I
really?
could work all week long. And then on the weekends, they had courses, so I'd get up, in the morning, go up, take the course, and then one course led to the next, to the
Yeah.
next, to the next. The very last course, unfortunately, they didn't have in New Jersey, but they had it in Pittsburgh, which is
Mm,
like 6 or 7 hours away.
okay.
It was like no problem. Me and a friend drove out there to attend that class. But I got all the. I mean, I had taken all those courses before I got state certified.
Oh, I see.
So when I finally took the state exam, I mean it was a piece of cake.
Oh, that's amazing. Good for you from that kind of standpoint. And were you generally staying in the New Jersey area as it related to commercial appraising?
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, yeah. For the most part, I was very local. Yeah, I remember back then, I basically wanted to stay right in the county,
Yes.
or the two or three counties that are like right next to me. But I didn't really want to go too far outside of that. At the time, I was like, no, that's where I want to be. I mean, as you can see over time, now I've praised in, I don't know, probably 18 states.
Okay. Wow. 18 states. And then did you, because you got to start with an MAI, was that a clear cut path because you not only were with a designated professional and then you also attended a course and someone said, hey, this is the Bible of the industry? A lot of people get involved in the industry and don't pursue additional coursework beyond their required continuing education, or they don't pursue designations. Well, how was it for you?
Yeah, no, I knew I wanted to. I thought to myself, if I'm going to get on this path, I'm going to get the gold ring. I'm going to get the MAI designation, and I knew that the fastest you could get it was 5 years. So I was like, all right, let me get the coursework out of the way. Then I took the state exam, and I forget when it was. I guess it was a year or so later. I sat for the comprehensive exam. Luckily, first passed that first time around.
Good for you.
Uh, Took me 2 years though to write my demonstration report.
That's quite a common comment. Goodness.
Yeah, it was funny because I mean I remember when I got ready, so I had everything out of the way, and right when I was like, all right, now I got to start working on this, and they had a thing out in Texas for one
Okay.
week, and it was basically to get people started, right?
Really?
Because back then it was a big deal. Since then, it's been for the past several years now. It's become a lot easier. Now they have
Mm.
programs. I mean, you submit portions of the demonstration report, and they grade
Yes.
them and they send them back. And back then, they didn't. You didn't do that. You wrote the entire thing
Hmm.
and you submitted it all, and a lot of those got turned down. And when I went out to Texas, we had probably 20 people in the class, and the very first morning, the instructors asked, like, "All right, how many of you guys have been working toward your MAI, and this is the only thing that you need, and you've been, working on this for, the past 10 years?"
Oh,
Say,
wow.
great, 25% of the hands went up.
Oh,
And
goodness.
then he asked, and the highest one, he says, "So how many of you guys have been, working on this for 20 years? You got everything else done. You've took the ticket, taken the
Oh,
coursework,"
goodness.
and there were like 4 or 5 hands. It was a bear. It was
Oh,
an absolute
that's
bear
just
to write this
overwhelming.
demonstration report because look, you really had to focus. You really had to, and you had to carve time out.
Wow.
And yeah, one of the guys that I met he was the chief appraiser for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay. Chief
And it was
appraiser
funny.
for the Army Corps of Engineers. Okay.
Yeah, I had just appraised Fort Monmouth,
Okay.
which had been the local army base, which got closed down as a result of BRAC.
Yes.
And I remember having a long conversation with him over dinner. But anyway, he was one of those guys, smart guy, brilliant guy, but he just never had the time to set
To get it
aside
done.
to pursue the so yeah, with me, I mean, I got up, I kind of set up the same timetable that I did for everything else. I'd get up, 4 in the morning.
Hmm.
I Back then I was studying every morning. This was
Sure.
like, all right, I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna chip away on it for a little bit every morning before I go to work.
Good for
So
you.
yeah, it took me 2 years, but I got it done.
So you were part of the 4 a.m. club for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
That's quite an accomplishment. And what changed for you between Bruce before the 4 a.m. club and Bruce after successful participation in the 4 a.m. club?
Well, obviously getting the MAI designation I mean, it was a sea change. It was a giant deal. I no longer needed to work for other companies. You know what I mean? And that was basically within a year. I started my own company. I started my company back in 2011.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that was a huge deal. But then obviously in and around that time, because it was in 2010 that Dodd-Frank happened, and for the first couple of years, I had a bunch of relationships, a lot of relationships with small and mid-sized banks around the tri-state area. And then as Dodd-Frank started picking up steam, all those relationships, they basically got handed to AMCs,
Mm-hmm.
and the world changed. And it was a couple years later. It was 2014. I don't know. I don't recall what really kind of spurred me to do this, but I saw a business valuation course
Oh, okay.
out in Texas.
Yes.
It was a couple weeks, which is pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
significant. It's not like going
now,
for like 4.5 days.
oh yeah. I mean, well, it's funny. I mean, because now that they've completely changed the program, and now it takes. I mean, to get to you to go through the same program takes a couple months. I mean,
Oh, it went from a couple weeks to a couple months.
oh yeah,
Oh, goodness.
exactly. But I remember when I was taking the course. I mean, a bunch of us, we were up till past midnight, and I'm a guy that's usually in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock every night.
Yes.
We were up till past midnight, trying to read and comprehend and be prepared for the class the next day.
Wow, that is something else. And then again, sounds like for the second time in your career, you made a trip to the Mecca. I should say your Mecca was Texas to take a course, and this time it was for business valuation. For those that don't know, there are a number of organizations that focus on business valuation education, like at a deep level, so much so that they actually have their own designations. Which one did you end up pursuing?
The International Society of Business Appraisers.
Oh, ISBA. Got it.
Yeah.
And was it more so just because Like you saw an announcement, you're like, hey, it's 2014, let's give this a shot?
You know
Or
what? I think part of it was a little bit of frustration
Mhm.
with what was going on with the industry,
Oh, okay.
grinding,
Yep.
and we're in that full on lowest fee and turn time,
Got it.
won the day, and to me that was disappointing because I had spent a couple of years before then working for some really big and respected appraisal companies, national
Mhm.
appraisal companies
Oh, okay.
that appraise mostly institutional properties.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? And yeah, we were traveling. You know what I mean? Quite a bit. I was mostly on the East Coast, so a lot of places I could drive to. I'd be
Yes.
driving down to Virginia. If I could, do a 4.5 hour drive down there, I'd just get on the road early in the morning,
Yes.
and I'd still make it back home for dinner.
Hey, that's a great way to go. I mean, the windshield time's worth it when you can make it home for dinner.
But it was funny because I took that course, and it was while I was in that course, there was it was funny. There was one of the guys that I was that sat next to me. We were chatting quite a bit. He was actually from Florida, from Miami.
Okay.
But it's like the light bulb went off in both our heads when they started talking about the excess earnings method in
Okay.
business valuation. And real estate appraisers don't really understand what that is. And it's funny because business appraisers look at the excess earnings method as horrible. It's a terrible thing because it's this very subjective type methodology that was just it was the methodology was developed by the U.S. Treasury Department
Oh, okay.
in the wake of the prohibition.
Oh, I didn't
And
know this.
what
Okay.
it was for was it was basically all the breweries and so forth.
Yes.
They lost a ton of business value
Yes.
as a result of prohibition,
Mhm.
so they were writing it off. And basically, the Treasury Department came up with this methodology to figure out how to separate the business from the real estate.
Yes.
Based on based on the concepts, and real estate appraisers embraced, and I'm sorry, not real estate, the business appraisers, appraisal industry embraced it. But mostly, you have to understand, back in those days, the early days, the business valuation community was young.
Mm.
They were, the real estate appraisal has been around a long time.
Yes.
The business community is relatively young. At that time, it was mostly CPAs that were kind of doing it as a sideline,
Yep.
like an extra business to make a little extra money and to serve their clients and so forth, but they didn't have the expertise, of really getting involved in high level business valuation. Anyway, that industry has obviously evolved dramatically. Uh, More business valuation folks and companies set up departments that they focus only on business valuations, and the industry has really kind of evolved. But the excess earnings method had been for years misapplied, misused. Uh, it just and there were so many comments out there. I wrote an article several years ago. What did I call it? The excess earnings method.
The market right now is tough for appraisal companies. Many companies are having a hard time getting enough work with the same marketing they used to. Is your company struggling, having a hard time getting new customers, or getting additional work from existing customers? The answer to this problem is easier than you think. Do more business with the people you already know. Over 10 years, the average U.S. appraisal firm meets over 17,000 potential customers. That's a lot of people you could be doing business with right now. But it's a big problem if you don't have a proven process to communicate with them. StoryLex turns this problem into an opportunity to grow. Our advanced AI marketing tool can rebuild your contact lists and harvest long-forgotten communications. Imagine reaching out to everyone you've ever met with just one click. For the cost of 1 or 2 appraisals a month, StoryLex helps you reconnect and market to people who already know you, like you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Act now by contacting Storylux today to turn your business growth dreams into reality. Email appraisal@storylux.com. That is appraisal at STORYLUX.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode.
The article, is that one that you wrote and had published in an accounting journal or in the appraisal journal, or?
I submitted it to, I think it was NACFA.
NACVA.
But basically, and I started the article by including a few quotes from some really well-known and respected business valuation people talking about how bad the excess earnings method was.
Oh, okay.
And lo and behold, that is the method that real estate appraisers now use to appraise going concern properties. But
No kidding.
giant
See, I don't know nothing about this. It's fascinating.
Oh, okay.
So real estate appraisers, and let's just back up a step. I was
Yep.
listening for a point I didn't want to interrupt you in any way, but there's a lot of people listening that have no idea when you say the excess earning method as it comes out of business valuation, even though real estate appraisers, a number of them use that. You want to go in a little bit of detail for us because this is an education opportunity.
Yeah, sure. Well, the excess earnings method is we'll take the root of that. Excess earnings is earnings that are in excess of the tangible assets that first have to receive a return of investment.
Exactly.
And the difference between you have the excess earnings method and you have the parsing income method.
Exactly.
They're basically the same thing, except the excess earnings method prioritizes the real estate.
Got it.
The big issue with appraising going concern properties is that you'll come up with the revenues for the entire business, and out of those revenues, conceptually, all of those revenues can be split off into a revenue stream for the real estate, a revenue stream to provide a return on and return of investment to the tangible assets, and the remainder, the leftover, is what supports the business.
Totally makes sense.
That's excess.
That's such a great point. And now that you mention it, I remember learning that. I think Ron DeVries was my instructor in that at that upper level income course, and I was like, wow, that's great stuff. I don't do that kind of work, but it's great to know it was out there, and clearly you're sitting there and you look at this fellow valuation professional from Florida, and you have one of those moments.
It's crucial. It's crucial to understand that concept. Look, real estate appraisers handle things like restaurants,
yes,
car washes, gas stations. Very common property types, all the time. And if the highest and best use of those properties is for continued use of those properties, in combination with a business and often the equipment,
yes,
then the appropriate premise of value is going concern or value in use, and the value of the real estate and also the value of the equipment is based on its contribution to the enterprise. It's not the sticks and the bricks, and that's why it's not really appropriate, and it's not useful to base everything on the physical components, the price per square foot, or the price per square foot of land area, or the price per seat, or the value per seat, or anything like that. It's about first you have to understand what the value of the going concern is based on the revenues that are being generated, and from there you can use the excess earnings method, first analyzing the income streams to figure out, all right, how much is needed to provide a reasonable return on and return of investment to the real estate, then to the equipment, then to the business. But then what complicates that a little bit, because that part is kind of, you say, well, that's got you can almost set up an algorithm for that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can do a cost approach, or you come up with other methods to figure out what those theoretical values are. But then your argument's kind of circular.
Got it.
Because you can readily recognize that there are going to be certain situations, there are going to be times when, oh, well, there's no income left to go to the business. Does that mean the business has no value?
Mm.
As a practical matter, what would that mean? It would mean that if the value of the real estate is based on its contribution to the enterprise, and the business isn't worth anything because there's not enough money left over to support the business, well, what's going to happen to the real estate? It's really no different than a shopping mall where the anchors close down and move out. What's the mall worth then?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
a simple matter of just looking at it on a price per square foot basis or a sales comparison approach. You really have to look at it from the perspective of, all right, there's this much revenue, and conceptually, in order to provide a reasonable return of investment to the real estate and then the equipment and so forth, there's going to be some money left over for the business. If there's not, what happens is the whole pie shrinks because there has to be enough money left over for the business. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. There's got to be money left over. But you first start by prioritizing the real estate and then the business, or then the equipment before the business. And then whatever's left over, the excess earnings, is what supports the business. But it tends to be an iterative process to make sure that you're sizing it right. And this is the crucial part because that's the part where business appraisers understand these concepts much more easily because they deal with them all the time.
Got it.
The problem is, as you know, all real estate appraisals. I mean, what's at the heart of all real estate appraisals? Highest best use.
Yes.
Business appraisers can't do highest and best use for real estate. They can't. They don't have the data. They don't have the training. They don't have the license. They can't do it. So real estate appraisers should be involved.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've seen situations where you have a restaurant
Yeah.
or even a gas station that's
Mm-hmm.
operating, and then one day it's not and gets
Yes.
bulldozed. The thing is, sometimes the highest and best use of the land, the underlying land, is worth more than what's there. Think of that hypothetical restaurant that's maybe generating $500,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's making a little bit of money, but it's on 3.5 acres, and CVS would love to have that site.
Yes.
All right, what's the highest best use there? Highest best use there? As real estate appraisers, we get it right away. Oh, you have a use, you can continue using it as a restaurant, but the highest best use is actually to knock it down. Business appraisers can't figure that out. Real estate appraisers can. But for real estate appraisers using using the excess earnings method, you have to analyze the business. You have to have some training and knowledge of how to analyze the business, but you also have to compare it. You have to kind of go around the other corner,
Yes.
or look at it from a different angle and say, all right, what would this real estate be worth if we just knocked the building down, or how close are we? You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to restaurants, the vast majority of restaurants 25 years ago, 20 years ago, they were 7,000 square feet, 7,500 square feet, 8,000 square feet. The average size of restaurants now that are being built are 3,500 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more competition around the country. They're changing, which means the older buildings are getting functionally obsolete.
Yes.
And you've probably seen, I've seen a bunch of them around here, where old restaurants, many of them are bought and converted to medical type facilities. Others I've seen where
Mm-hmm.
they've taken half the building and converted it to like a dock in a box
Yes.
or something like that, and kept the rest of it, kept the other half as a restaurant. They're right sizing it.
It's amazing how that stuff goes. And clearly from 2014 with that first course that you took, one would very easily deduce that you have stayed in and around this specialty valuation. What has it been like for many people that are not familiar with this or have not pursued that area but may have been adjacent to it? You've already touched a little bit on the uniqueness of valuing specialty properties, but how has that process been making a transition from standard industrial and commercial properties moving into special use. You mentioned that kind of timing started in 2014. And for those that don't know, you're fully in that space these days, and you're recognized around the country as an expert in special use properties. But share a little bit more for those that they're like, wow, Bruce, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. Because after that course, I mean, I just decided I was like, you know what, this is a great niche
Mm.
because people just the vast majority of the industry just doesn't really understand it. I mean, there's a fair amount of appraisal literature. Unfortunately, it's funny because I mean, as I've continued to study and learn more about the history of how these properties were appraised and how the appraisal literature has evolved. Uh, I mean, the up until the 14th edition, the prior editions didn't really handle it very well.
Mm.
Matter of fact, the courses I've since over the past I've been teaching uh, uh, the two courses. The American Society of Appraisers has two courses
Yes.
on valuing going concern properties.
Yes, they
Both
do.
courses are 3.5 days.
Yes.
3 days of course material, and then a half day for the exam. I've been teaching that for the past 3 years.
What has been your experience of becoming an instructor for the course where you started out just about a decade ago as a student?
Yeah, no, it's interesting talking with because most of the students are literally scattered all around the country.
Okay.
In every class, as you know, there's usually someone from, you know, California, or Washington State, or you know, uh, yeah, out on the West Coast, you get a few people from Florida.
Yes.
You get a bunch of a smattering of people from the middle of the country, and we're even getting more and more students from internationally,
Really?
Mexico,
Mm.
and I mean you name it. So it's kind of interesting. And I mean, the fun thing is most of the appraisers they're very experienced appraisers. I mean, been the real estate appraisal industry for 20, 30, 40 years, but they've never really dealt with these property types. And unfortunately, and a lot of times you hear them talk like, oh yeah, I understand all this, but I mean, one of the comments I heard one of the couple classes ago was, yeah, but who's got the template set up? Yeah, you gotta set up a template. You can't take a template for a general purpose property and apply it to a going concern property because they're different analysis. But conceptually, it's really not that different. It's not that complicated, but you do have to look at it quite a bit differently. You think of hotels.
Okay.
Real estate appraisers deal with hotels all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you're really appraising going concerns. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the revenues of the entire business,
Yes.
and it's really very similar to how you're looking at the revenues for for these other types of businesses. And for real estate, we deal with NOI. Business appraisers, deal with EBITDA.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same thing. I mean,
Yes.
there are some slight differences, but they're very much the same thing. Uh, the big, the critical point, the critical issue that you have to deal with is figuring out basically the allocation after you get the EBITDA. What's the allocation between what component of that, what portion of that must go to the rent to support the real estate, and what portion goes to the business, and also that needs to support the equipment.
And would you say that your opportunity back in 2014 by taking that at the time, which was a couple weeks course, now it's a couple months, did that get you started or did that get you proficient
No,
in
that gets you
learning these
started.
things? Get you started. Okay.
Yeah, just like real estate appraisal. I
Yes.
mean, we've all been newbies in the real estate appraisal business,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean we all recognize all of our competence doesn't happen from the licensing course.
Are you kidding me? Bruce, what have you spoken what such heresy? I cannot believe those words came from your mouth. I mean, I thought people just, it's like they were touched and healed all at the same time. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, you learn, baptism by fire just by studying it. But yeah, the point I was making before was, I mean, over the years, the appraisal of real estate textbook has evolved, and it
Hmm.
finally, as of the 15th edition, it really has it nailed, but it didn't in the past. And actually, that's the point I was making before. The
Yes.
course that I teach now was written back in, I think it was like 2013, 2014. The edition at the time, which I think was the 13th edition,
Yes.
just didn't have it right. So a guy by the name of Dean Wilson
Hmm.
out in California wrote that book, and then he developed that book into the course, or the two courses that are taught now.
Oh, wow. Fascinating.
But it's interesting. I continue to go back and I'll look at the old appraisal literature and how it's evolved, and how the appraisal of real estate text, which is it's usually that's our main body of knowledge that most real estate appraisers, yeah, it is the Bible for us. It's if it says it in there, it's the most widely accepted and quoted book in in the court systems of any text out there.
Hmm.
But it's funny how it didn't treat this subject very well for a long time. It finally does now.
That is absolutely great to hear. What has been, you mentioned how for a long period of time you've had the experience working with some large firms. You had a focus area there in a local geography that allowed you many times to be home at night for dinner. And now you, with this expanded focus, but narrower focus, valuation. You mentioned working in 18 states before you like probably were in one or two counties.
Oh yeah, right. Exactly. It really is funny how that has completely changed. Now it's sometimes I'll get calls from friends of mine and so forth looking for local comps near me. Well, I haven't done anything in this area in a long time.
Oh no, that's funny. Oh man, that's funny. Oh, how was it for you with that getting started, moving into a related area of valuation, but not one that's commonly practiced by traditional real estate appraisers to handling such a much larger geography? How does that come about?
Yeah, just and part of it is just basically committing.
Say more about
Then
that.
yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to be,
Hmm.
and which meant I had to stop bidding on the little stuff,
Yes.
and basically keep myself available so that when I got those calls, I was ready for it. I had the time and had plenty of bandwidth.
Well, that's fantastic. And then to develop relationships on a larger geography, how does that happen? That's something that most people are not aware of. I don't know. Maybe you're a huge TikTok star, and
No,
we just don't know you that way. But now we can. People can actually have a reason to go on TikTok because Bruce said so.
you know what? I really should. I should be posting more and things like that. But I think I mean I've written probably I guess 8 or 9 articles that I don't know people have seen and so forth.
Okay.
But I think it's mostly because I've met a bunch of people over the years that have learned what I do, and they know that when they get these types of properties and when it matters, they don't want to trust it because, and you've seen it with appraisal management companies. And
Yeah. Hmm.
you could go for a long time and on the evils of appraisal management companies, but the
Yeah,
problem
I
is
understand.
I mean, fee and turn time, and they don't really think about competency and making sure they're getting the correct values for selling concerned properties.
Totally get it. And when you mention, the people, people you've met over the years, it's one thing to have met some people over the years, but how did they become aware that you had developed a practice in and competency with this specialty type of valuation, because they're going to know you for how you had been back when you were more regularly interacting or working together.
It was slow at first. It was basically slowly at first, but I did have a core number of people that had known me over the years. And honestly, when I had worked for some of the bigger companies doing institutional work,
Mhm.
I had appraised a lot of complex property types.
Oh, I see.
uh, uh, Charter schools, things like that. And if you have a few reports like that out there that show what you can do, it's I don't know. I think word of mouth is a real thing. When it comes to, especially when it comes to these types of properties, where the vast majority of real appraisers just don't know how to do them properly, and unfortunately, they get wrong valuations.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of the guys that have come to know me are brokers, mortgage brokers that deal with those types of properties where they're trying to get financing for both the business, the equipment, and the real estate, or sometimes just the real estate, but they know that okay, it's based on the business, and they're analyzing the property, and they're presenting the deal to the lender based on the business. Because at the end of the day, I mean, most of the lenders that are sophisticated and know what they're doing, they're not so much looking at, all right, what's this property going to be worth if a property goes dark, which a lot of real estate appraisers kind of focus on, like, oh well, what's this property going to be worth if the business moves out.
That's a very
The
good point.
banks, for the most part, they're underwriting what the likelihood of this company being able to continue servicing their mortgage on into the future. And
That makes a lot of sense.
that's dependent on the cash flow available
Yes.
from the revenues to the business,
Hmm.
and what's left over to support the real estate, and having enough, after supporting the real estate, to provide a reasonable return on to the business, so that the guy can make a living.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I mean, given everything you've seen and everything you've heard and experienced, what are you looking forward to or optimistic about over the next 3 to 5 years?
Huh. That's a good question. Well, I tell you, like I said, I mean, it's been kind of an interesting several years up to this point. But just it was last year I got a call. Now I've been hired now. I'm working on. And you might have read about one of the first cases a few years ago. Disney down in
Hmm.
Florida.
Yeah, yeah.
They're appealing the taxes on
Yes,
a lot of their big giant hotels.
absolutely.
I've been hired by Orange County, Florida, to help them, basically to rebut the business appraisers,
Oh, fascinating.
because the business appraisers come in, they have a real estate appraisal done, but then they'll have a business appraiser opine and say, oh, hundreds of thousands of dollars of these
Yes.
hotels is actually intangible. And they come up with an analysis, and unfortunately, it's not done properly. And it's not
Oh,
done
I see.
because it's done by a business appraiser who doesn't know
Hmm.
anything about real estate,
Oh, I see.
and they're not collaborating with the real estate appraiser. They're working independently. And this is, when it comes to appraising those types of properties, it's really an interdisciplinary approach that's required. And since I've been hired for a bunch of the properties down there, I guess my footprint is getting bigger,
Oh,
and I'm getting
wow.
involved in some of those bigger things. So that kind of has me energized for the next several years. You know what I mean? To kind of see how that plays out.
That sounds phenomenal and a wonderful opportunity to not be in New Jersey during the wintertime.
It was funny. I got a call. It was a few weeks ago. He said, "Yeah, I was kind of supposed to be in Orlando. There was a trial coming up, and it was a couple days later. And the guy calls me up. He says, I just hate to break it to you, but we settled that one."
Oh, no. Well, I'll still come
I was
see
like, I
you.
was really looking forward
I'll
to
still come
fucking
see you.
hanging
Don't
out
say
for a
no.
few
Don't say
days.
no. Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially up here, that's when the temperature, he was like, it was getting below 10 degrees. It was really, really cold out. And I'm just not great. It's super cold.
Yep.
So yeah, I was kind of looking
Oh,
forward
wow.
to going down there for a few days, but
That's
oh
fascinating.
well.
That is fascinating. Oh my goodness. Well, Bruce, the thing we love about the podcast is it's always an opportunity to hear some life experience, hear some industry experience. In this case, hear some property experience that we just don't normally intersect with as much. So I am grateful for your generosity and your sharing for a little bit of how all these years have come together and now have you as a specialist in special use properties.
Well, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And friends, we just want to say thank you again for joining us for another informative, insightful, and definitely educational Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. Thanks to our peer and guest, Bruce Jones. Bruce, have a fantastic day.
Michael, you too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You are very welcome. And friends, thanks for listening. More importantly, thanks for sharing. And hey, you heard some interesting takeaways from Bruce. Maybe go take a new action or consider some different continuing education this cycle. Until the next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.